Day 2 of NFL free agency is upon us, and we are back here on Patriots Today. Harrison Graham and Nick Rohloff are going to get you caught up on the latest rumors, one big rumor in particular, and then we will recap everything that happened on day 1 because even a couple of late-night signings came in. Nick put up some shorts for those, but we'll dive into those a little bit more. But before we get into all that, Rolly, we got to get you guys to subscribe. 5 signings yesterday, and we covered them all here on the channel.
Yeah, I mean Antonio Gibson, Mike Onwenu returning, Jacoby Brissett, Sione Takitaki, and then Jalen Reagor, all kind of at the night shift yesterday. It did not matter. We were leaving the Chat Sports headquarters, but we stuck around, got you guys a video, and then with those 2 minor signings in the late night, we had you covered with a short. That's why you subscribe to the channel, because we are going to make sure no matter what time of day, we have you on the latest surrounding the New England Patriots, so hit that sub button. And the latest surrounding the Patriots is the continued pursuit of top wide receiver Calvin Ridley. Jonathan Jones reported that he remains the top free agent wide receiver on the market. Jaguars actually wish to retain him, and the Patriots hope to sign him. Sources say there could be a dark horse looking as well. Money will be interesting with a deep draft class at the position coming.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Rolly, because I think yesterday a couple of things were true. I think running backs got paid more than we thought because it's not a good running back draft. And the wide receiver market, I think, has hit a wall because it's a great wide receiver draft. So could Calvin Ridley end up being a little cheaper than expected? Now, I don't think you're going to get him for like the Gabe Davis deal. I think it's going to cost more than that, but maybe it's like 3 for $50 or something like that, where it's $16-17 million per year and you're not having to break the bank. And if you're the Patriots and you can get him for under $20 million AAV, that would be absolutely fantastic. I know you've been on this train for a while, and it makes sense because, look, even if you're not in the camp of you think Calvin Ridley's a top-end number 1, which I actually am not. I think he's like a 1B, unreal number 2. But for this team, you would be a clear number 1 right now. If you get him at a high-end wide receiver 2 money, I think that's pretty damn good.
Listen,
so I'll be curious to see how it plays out.
I'll say this. If you could get Calvin Ridley for under $20 million a year, I think that would be the biggest steal in all of steals. I was watching some film last night. I was watching some highlights of Calvin Ridley. The dude has flat-out speed. I tell you what, that's the thing that I think I did not understand and really get his game more than anything was I knew he was a great route runner. I knew he was a technician. He had good hands. But I did not understand how fast he actually was. He is pulling away from these defenders. And I know there's going to be the concern about 2022, the suspension, that he missed the entire year, in 2021, only playing in 5 games due to injury and personal reasons. But I actually think that might benefit New England if they did sign him because he doesn't have as much tread on those tires. He's only played in, I think it's 38 games over the last 4 seasons. I think that's a good thing. He's still pretty fresh for a 29-year-old wide receiver, and he would be able to come in and put up elite numbers and be that security blanket on the outside for whoever that rookie quarterback is, or if Jacoby Brissett was forced to start. I mean, this is a guy that every time he plays over 16 games a season, he puts up 1,000 yards. Get a wide receiver like this in the organization for the first time since, I don't know, like I guess Julian Edelman, but like Calvin Ridley's more talented than Edelman. Ridley might be the most talented wide receiver you've had since Wes Welker / Randy Moss, and I'm not shitting you.
No, I mean, I think he's more talented than Welker, too. Welker, obviously, is just the ultimate example of not just maximizing his talent, but probably going above and beyond. Ridley's damn talented. I mean, he's a first-round pick for a reason, put up huge numbers in Atlanta, had the year and a half of whatever you want to call personal suspension, all that stuff. But even though he didn't look peak Ridley last year, he still came back after a year and a half off and had over 1,000 yards. Like this is still a guy who could be productive and, again, would clearly be your top guy. You got Kendrick Bourne and Demario Douglas. Maybe you add a guy in the middle rounds of the draft as well, and you go from there. It kind of, if you get this guy in the building, you're not set at receiver, but, like, you're in a much better situation than you were last season, and I think that's pretty obvious to say. So with that being said, who is your top free agent target? For us, it's clearly Calvin Ridley. I don't even think that's a question at this point in time, but maybe you want Danielle Hunter or somebody else. drop a name in the comments section. And there are still some other notable guys out there, Rolly. Do they take a swing at Tyron Smith after paying Mike Onwenu big money? Is Jonah Williams maybe a tier 2 option at tackle? What do you do with Kyle Duggar? It doesn't sound like, at least publicly, that he's been negotiating with other teams at this point. Maybe he ends up just playing on that tender. Do you get the Danielle Hunter sweepstakes? Marquise Brown is kind of a lesser receiver. There's still names out there for New England to add to this roster.
Yeah, I think the most fascinating thing to keep your eye on if you're a Patriots fan, which I assume you are watching this video, is what do the New England Patriots do with the offensive line? Do they go after Tyron Smith, where it was reported in the weeks leading up to free agency after he was released by Dallas and, well, not released, but not going to be retained by Dallas, that the Patriots would go after him? Do you sign that veteran left tackle and complete your offensive line before the NFL draft? That gives you flexibility of maybe drafting a guy in the middle rounds to be that young, developing offensive tackle, but you have two veterans with Onwenu and Smith. Same could be said about Jonah Williams. Now, Williams would be much cheaper, probably on a 2-year deal, kind of maybe a prove-it deal, if you will, with Jonah Williams. And then the other thing that I'm watching out for is Kyle Duggar. As you mentioned, it doesn't really seem like there's that big of a market for Duggar right now. Maybe it's a private type of conversations being had, but nothing in the public eye. And it seems more and more likely as the days and minutes and hours go on here that Duggar might be playing on that 1-year, $13 million transition tag, which is obviously very New England or very good for them because I don't think Duggar is worth $13 million. I feel like he's maybe worth $14, $15, so you'd be getting him at a discount. But it would also put your relationship with him at a little bit of a crossroads here because maybe he's upset about having to play on that tag.
Could signal the final year of him being here potentially. Maybe he walks next year. You'd have to wait and see. Maybe you draft a safety in the middle rounds if you do shore up that offensive line in free agency. That could be an option as well. But, it does feel like in free agency as a whole, the next two big dominoes feel like Danielle Hunter and Calvin Ridley. Because Danielle Hunter's the clear top defensive lineman, not just edge, but defensive lineman left on the market. And then after Ridley, you kind of get into that next tier of receivers of Marquise Brown, Tyler Boyd, Darnell Mooney, players of that ilk. So I think a lot of those players might wait to sign until Calvin Ridley lands on his feet somewhere. Now, you look at what the Patriots did yesterday, which, again, we broke down all these signings in deeper detail. If you want to go check out those videos, subscribe, go to the content tab. It's all there. Obviously, you bring back Hunter Henry, which I liked. You're going to have to help me with the first pronunciation there in a second. Thank you. He could be, that's still somewhat a mystery with the Onwenu deal until the Patriots announce where Onwenu's going to play. Okorafor could be your right tackle, potentially. I think he's better as a swing, probably. That would be more ideal.
He has 3.5 years of starting experience for Pittsburgh at that right tackle position, so I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world. And then obviously you brought in Antonio Gibson yesterday, which really kicked off the exterior signings for New England, which there weren't a lot of. There was 3 of them. You see Gibson. You obviously brought back Onwenu. Who knows if he's going to be guard or right tackle for New England next season. But then obviously Jacoby Brissett, which was the biggest lock of all Lockersteins over here. We knew that was going to happen. 1 year, $8 million for Brissett, which, by the way, after we saw today that Marcus Mariota signed for a 1-year deal up to $10 million, I believe it was.
Tyrod Taylor at 2 for 18
2 for 18 for Tyrod, 1 for 10 for Sam Darnold. How about the 1 for $8 million for Jacoby Brissett? Eliot Wolf, listen, we knew this was going to happen, but I like that money for Jacoby Brissett. And then this one's interesting. Takitaki, the former Browns linebacker, good special teams player, but also good rotation LB as well for Cleveland. That is your Mack Wilson replacement, who signed a 3-year deal with the Cardinals. Takitaki will fill that role that Wilson played last year. And I give Mack credit. He was actually really good on that Patriots defense, but Takitaki will fill that. And also, if you go back and look on the Twitterverse right now, you could find clips of Eliot Wolf when he was not with the Patriots organization talking in depth about how much he loved Sione Takitaki when he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. This is someone Eliot Wolf really, really enjoyed back when he was a NFL draft prospect, so it makes sense that he's a free agent. He is a perfect fill for the Mack Wilson role, and he's a New England Patriot.
Then you bring back Jalen Reagor, who kind of popped late in the year, had a couple big plays.
Kick return for a touchdown, Harrison, against the Bills.
He's always been a good return specialist. Had a couple deep ball catches randomly late in the year, too. look, as like a wide receiver 5 special teams guy, it seems like he kind of found some comfort finally in the NFL with New England, so I like bringing him back there too. I think for your wide receiver 4 and beyond, you got to give you some kind of juice somewhere, and his speed and special teams ability provides that. So,
Well,
like
I'll also
bringing
say
him back
this, Harrison,
as well.
before we get out of here, there's videos circulating of wide receivers working out with Bailey Zappi yesterday at the beginning of free agency. Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, and Zappi were all working out. Tyquan Thornton, which he came in the league, he's been bad. Let's call a spade, he's been bad. But he's always struggled staying on the field with injuries, and he just had a thin frame, so if he gets jammed, he would be in shambles. He kind of was looking big. Like, he put on some weight. It's officially weight season, Harrison.
Yeah.
He got some muscles
Best shape
added
of life
to him.
season.
But here's the thing. Like, you did make a good point, though, because if you sign Ridley, your top 3 guys are going to be Ridley, Bourne, and Douglas. You have Thornton and Reagor as 4, 5, maybe 5, 6 if you cut Juju and draft a wide receiver on day 2 to be that 4th guy.
Yeah.
That's a fast, young wide receiver room with a lot of potential. I would be a big fan of that.
Yeah, definitely don't mind that at all. We will keep you up to date with everything that happens today, so be sure to subscribe, lock us in. We got you covered here on Patriots Today by Chat Sports. We'll see you guys soon.